Well, so what our plan is for this session is we just wanted to have a brief look at you in terms of what well-being looks like for us, what that might be like on an everyday situation within our schools, our classes, our lives, the different parts we do. Have a think about what positive well-being looks like for us moving forward, because actually if we can't identify what positive well-being looks like, then how do we know when we've reached it, and how then in the reverse do we know that our well-being isn't as good as it should be? Share with you a few possible well-being techniques for managing stress in the workplace. We're not reinventing the wheel here. There'll probably be things you've heard before, but actually sometimes it does no harm at all in our busy lives just to take 5 minutes and revisit things that we think, oh yeah, I could be doing that. And then, as Kirsty said when she did the introduction on the main screen, we just want to have a think about the positives from the COVID period, because we hear people talking about actually it's been terrible, it's been awful, but actually if we dig down, there might be some positives from the whole experience that we can take, have worked well for us, and actually we can keep moving forward. Now, my first picture, and I think this is a really, really important one, is obviously the air mask that you put on when you get onto the plane. And the reason why I've started with this picture, and I think it's really key, is the one thing they say to you when you get onto an aeroplane, when you're going to fly, is please make sure that if we have a drop in air pressure, that you make sure you put your mask on yourself before you put it on any infants or any elderly relatives that you have with you that maybe can't do it for themselves. And I think sometimes, especially in the jobs we're in, we get so involved, so tied up, and for good reason, with those around us and making sure that they're all right, that sometimes we forget about ourselves. And I think really, if we're going to take, for me, one thing from this session is that caring for yourself is really, really important, and is actually the best thing to do. Because actually, if you haven't put your own oxygen mask on, then everybody else around you is going to suffer, and they're not going to make it through that drop in air pressure because you're not in a position to do it. And I think it's trying to get into that mindset that it isn't selfish, it isn't egocentric. It's not just me thinking about myself, it's about me thinking about myself so that I'm in the best place possible to be able to help those around us. And if I'm taking the world's problems on my shoulders and thinking about everybody else, who is there to look after me? And actually the main person that's there to look after you is you. Now, Sarah spoke to us about the brain and the effects on stress, and I'm not going to go into lots and lots of science, because one, I'm not scientific, and two, I think that might just confuse us. But I want us just to think about the brain in really simple terms. Actually, we've got a human brain, which is normally the part we call the left frontal cortex. That's the part of the brain that you probably recognise as you. It's the bit that contains your skills, your memories, and on a really good day, it works a bit like a bit of a giant Google, really. It helps you find information, it makes you feel positive, it makes you feel effective, and when it's working properly, it's looking for answers and questions all the time. You've got your computer brain. That's the brain that works really speedy, and you don't have to think about it. You just do it automatically. So things like riding your bike. You don't get your bike out and go, oh, how do I do this? You just get on it and you ride away. It stores all of that information that you've got within your head that you want to do time and time again. It's a bit like a computer program. It's repetitive. And then in the bottom left, I've got my chimp, and my chimp brain is my brain that Sarah's referring to as the fight, flight, or fright, or freeze part. That is the bit that actually, if I'm faced with a problem, goes into panic mode, either decides to fight back, is going to run away, or is going to freeze in fear. And and within to our computer goes the memories from each part. So on my good days, all the things that are happening go into my computer, but also some of those bad things that go into my computer from my chimp. So for example, if I've got on a bike and I've fallen off of it and my chimp's suddenly gone into panic mode, I'm not doing this again, that then goes into my computer and is stored, and I don't do that again. So a lot of times we don't want to be using our chimp brain, we want to be using our human brain. As Sarah told us, that sometimes our chimp brain is good, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be using our chimp brain. Sometimes what we call our gut reaction is what we want, and actually sometimes that initial thought we have without thinking about it is sometimes the right one. But too much of your chimp brain, too much running on adrenaline, too much running on that flight or fright even, is not going to be particularly good. And actually what we want to do is to be able to be putting more of our human brain into our computer rather than our chimp. Before I move on to the next part, I just want you, and I don't want you to share it necessarily, I just want you to have a think about you on a good day. So if you're working in your human brain, on your good side, if we want to call it that, what does it look like? I'm just going to give you about 30 seconds to have a think about that. So you've probably been thinking about, you might have had things like calm, collected, in control, happy, smiley, nice to be around, calm. And then if we compare that to our chimp brain, you might be edgy, jumpy, bit bitey, you might bite back at people, someone might say you're being a bit stroppy. So I think it's really important that you take that, what do I look like on a good day, and recognise that maybe when it's not going so well, that you're not seeing those particular behaviours, because what we are aiming for is really to tip that balance. So we're not going to say you're never going to have days that aren't great, but we're tipping the balance so that we have more sides on our human brain. So we're not into that chimp brain, and you might recognize your chimp brain is the one that's stopping you doing things. It tells you the negatives. It tells you if you do something, you're going to look daft, you're going to look stupid. It's hyper vigilant, you're always on edge. It goes back to our cavemen days where you're looking for that tiger and you're looking for everything that might possibly go wrong. It's not innovative. It's focusing only on what you need to do. It's shutting down that creativity. So what we're wanting to do is to get back to that good side. We're trying to release what we call serotonin. And serotonin is what you produce when things are good in our lives. Our body's releasing the serotonin and it contributes to our well-being and our happiness. And that's what we want, really. We want to create those feelings of happiness and of contentment. So just want to have a think about possibly a few strategies that we might be able to use, because although we're saying yes, we want to use our human brain, we want to be happy, we want to be cheery, we want to feel great well-being, but what can we do to get to that? So just going to share with you a few strategies that you might want to try that work. The first one is conscious decision. Now I've put up the visual timetable, and in a lot of our schools we've got visual timetables, and we might use these quite effectively with our children, where we're making that conscious decision. Well, you really, I know that you dislike doing maths, but actually we've got PE in 20 minutes, and actually if you get through your maths, then you've got your PE to look forward to. So it's that almost that conscious decision, right? I'm going to do my maths because I know I've got PE. So almost that idea of having something to remind you that if I get through this, then this will happen. Okay, and we use it a lot, and I've seen it, used in all of our schools, especially over at the Marlborough Centre. It's all very much this, and then you do this, then this will happen. And that's why the visual timetables for us as adults are really useful, having something that we can focus on. Now, a really good strategy, and I use it myself, and you might have seen it if you've been into my office, is to have 3 pictures up in your office, your classroom, at home, 3 things that make what you're doing worthwhile. And if you come into my office anytime, you'll see that behind my desk I've got a picture of my favourite places I've been on holiday. I've got a picture of my favourite football team stadium that sits on my wall, and I've also got, sitting right in front of me on my desk, a picture of my 2 children. And when I'm having a particularly poor day, these 3 things allow me to focus on why I'm doing what I'm doing. Doesn't maybe make what I've got to do that much better at that moment, because you're still going to have the stress, but you've got that, if I do this, then this is going to happen. If I do this, then I know at the weekend I'm going to be able to, obviously COVID related, go and watch my favourite football team play football. I know if I do this, then I'm going to be able to afford to go on holiday in the summer. If I do this, then I know I'm going to make things better for my children, and that I'm going to be able to get home and be able to spend some quality time. So again, a really simple strategy, but it might be one that you want to try out, putting up 3 pictures, 3 posters, writing down on a post-it note 3 things that make you do what you do. And again, you know, just for you to have a think, what do you think your 3 would be? Would they be people? Would they be places? Would they be objects? Would they be pets? And again, very personal to you what those 3 would actually be. Next one, the real or imagine. There's a really famous experiment around the piano where they put made up piano keys along a table, got somebody to practice playing a tune, never played a piano before. When they went to the piano, they could play the tune practically because they just imagined over and over again that idea of where they're pressing their fingers, and it's almost rehearsing. Again, with the presentation, we talk, when you know, you might do it yourself, rehearse what you're going to say, write down your notes, think about the positives, because if our chimp brain takes over, our chimp brain's going to tell us nobody's going to like our presentation, everybody's going to laugh at us, I'm going to forget my words, I'm suddenly going to need the toilet halfway through. But if we can be almost training ourselves and telling ourselves even out loud, this is what my presentation's going to be like, everybody's going to enjoy it, I'm going to get my message across, everybody's going to be smiling at me. Again, the evidence would suggest the more positive messages, the more I can rehearse that positivity in my mind, the more likely that my presentation is to go well. If I'm telling myself it's going to be awful and nobody's going to like it and everybody's going to laugh at me, then it's more likely to happen, because I'm then going to project that negativity onto my audience. So again, just that positive, you know, affirmation practice, that is going to be well. Practicing gratitude, and again it's something that maybe doesn't come naturally to you. Putting a post-it note somewhere, telling yourself how great you are. I am awesome, I am wonderful, I am fantastic, everybody is going to want to listen to me today. You know, again, it's getting into that habit. So the first thing you see when you wake up, or the last thing you see before you go to bed in the evening, is that positive message. Putting it on the front door before you go out, putting it on your desk at work. We're very lucky at the moment in that Headspace, you might have heard of Headspace before, are offering free meditation and wellbeing talks through their app. If you go and contact Karen Watkin, HR at the Trust, and she will produce you a letter to say you work for the Trust. At the moment, they're offering that service free for a year. Again, really fantastic way to have that time to be mindful, to practice gratitude. Another good one that, again, I've used it with children, but I've also seen adults use it really effectively, is just to take your hands. It can be one hand, can be 2, and just to go across your fingers, pulling out one positive thing about you. And again, if you're finding that difficult, find somebody, ask them, what is it that you like about me? And I'm sure that everybody will be able to find, lots and lots of positive things about you. And just remind yourself that physically touching your fingers as you're going along to remind yourself all of those great things that make you the special person you are. And again, just putting it all together, just that idea of positive thinking, trying to go over and over in your mind, saying it out loud, no matter how silly you might feel saying it, the more you say it out loud, the more likely you are to believe it. And again, just a thought for you. What would the two things that you would say about you are? What two things would you put on your post-it note, on your mirror, that you're going to see each day when you wake up, that are going to remind yourself? Is it, I am incredible? Is it going to be, I am brave? Is it going to be, I'm going to smile today? Again, very, very personal to you. And it might be something you think, yeah, I'll give it a try. Because again, if we don't give it a try, we're never going to know whether it works for us. So practicing gratitude is my next one. Being solution focused. And again, we talk about it an awful lot with our children about, don't come to me with your problem, come to me with the solution. What has happened? Fred might have hit you on the playground. Well, don't tell me what the problems are. Tell me how you're going to solve it. Focusing on the strengths. Focus on your strengths to tackle the problem rather than your weaknesses. Looking at the solution rather than the problem. Focusing on what makes you competent to be able to do that rather than letting your chimp take over and tell you the inadequacies. Very much focusing about rather what you can do rather than what you can't do. Again, takes practice. It's not just going to happen overnight. But again, the more you tend to get into that solution focused mindset about the positives from it and bringing your strengths to it, the better it will be. Next one, really, really obvious, but be surprised how many of us neglect this one: sleep. Because during the night time, that's when your thoughts and experiences move from your left frontal cortex, which holds all your emotions, through to your main cortex where it's stored. So if you're not giving yourself sleep, then your emotions and your experiences are going to sit there buzzing through your head, and you're not going to be able to almost park them. So you need that chance to sleep. So again, please forgive me if you think this is teaching to suck eggs, but it's very much the obvious with your sleeps. Be consistent as possible with the time you set for going to sleep. There's a lot of evidence, and a lot of people do it. They really discipline during the week. They get to the weekend, they go to bed much later. They lay in till really late the next day. And then when they come to Sunday night, they find it really difficult to sleep because they've got out of that routine. I was listening to a talk by a rugby league captain who went on to captain the Great Britain team, and he was very, very adamant around this, the idea that the sports psychologists push, that actually if you differ your sleep times every night by only 30 minutes, then it allows you to have a much better positive well-being. It's when you go to those extremes that you end up having problems. Limiting your screen time to 30 minutes to an hour before bedtime. The blue lights within a lot of our electrical devices, computer screens, phone screens, laptop screens, are absolutely terrible for interfering with your brain, and it almost tricks your brain in terms of staying awake. So again, the good practice is if you can, 30 minutes to an hour before bedtime, put down all electricals, switch off the television, and then just go and wind down. Maybe using that time to practice some meditation or relaxation. Maybe some exercise before bed, gentle exercise to tire yourself out. Again, you know, very obvious, but avoiding caffeine. If you've drunk a cup of tea or coffee before you've gone to bed, then that caffeine is going to be really buzzing around in your body and it's not going to allow you to drop off. Alcohol as well. Again, you know, you might hear people say, oh, well, I'll just have a few drinks, it will help me sleep. But again, it doesn't allow you to have what we know as deep sleep. When you've drunk alcohol, it puts you into, yes, you might fall asleep straight away, but it puts you into a very, very light sleep. And you might know it yourself. If you drink, you sometimes tend to wake up a lot during the night, or you have quite a restless sleep. Again, in terms of helping sleep, maybe having a hot shower. Again, the science says that, you know, when we put our body into a hot situation, we have a hot shower, it tricks our body into thinking that it's going to then go into sleep mode. And then as you come out the shower and your body cools down, it then sends you into that sleep. So again, really good strategy to be able to have that sleep before you go to bed. Exercise. Again, you know, we all know, but sometimes it's something we neglect. You know, the exercise releases those endorphins. Those endorphins lift your mood, helps your body to wind down. But it's about building it up. And I like to think about this in terms of being a sledge. That actually, when you go in a sledge down a hill, the first time you go down the hill in your sledge, you might go off in every sort of direction because you haven't got that groove, and it might not be a nice smooth ride on your sledge because you've not dug in that groove. But the more you do it, the more you go over and over, that groove gets deeper and deeper and clearer, and your sledge ride becomes easier and easier. The same, you do exercise. The first time you do it, you might be absolutely exhausted. You know, you might think, oh, I'm never doing it again, but it's about that persevering. The same as we'd say to our children, you know, give it a go for a bit longer, give it a bit go and you might like it. But it's about finding that exercise that particularly works for you. So another one, and Sarah mentioned this in her presentation, saying no. That actually is all right sometimes to say no. We don't have to always say yes. And you'll notice as well, if you constantly say yes to things, people will then take advantage of it. They might just say, oh, can you do this? Oh, they said yes that time, so we'll ask you again and we'll ask you again. So it's about making sure that you are feeling brave to be able to say no. And if you do find it particularly difficult to say no, maybe finding somebody that can almost be your buddy, can be there to help you to be able to say no, that you can confide in. Help with a diary. This one helps sometimes with sleep as well. Sometimes we have so much buzzing around in our mind, maybe just keeping a notepad or a diary beside your bed so that you can almost write down your thoughts, good, bad or indifferent, but then they're down in that diary, in your journal, and then you park them for the rest of that day. It's almost that unloading, that unlifting of all the things you've got swirling round and round in your head to give you that opportunity to put them. And then if you do wake up in the middle of the night, you've got your diary, your journal there, write down your thoughts, parked it again for the rest of the night. I can get back to sleep knowing that I'm not going to forget what that thought that suddenly came to us. Again, and this is sometimes really difficult when we start to get down, we tend to, in a lot of cases, withdraw from people. So making yourself to make that call, phone somebody up, share with somebody how you're feeling. You know, again, it takes that step maybe to call someone up and say, look, I'm not feeling too fantastic, but actually just taking that first step, because it could be not only does it help you, but it helps that person on the other side of the phone. I just want to finish with a thought really, because sometimes I think, especially when we're feeling down and we're feeling stressed, that we can feel that it's just us and everybody around us is coping absolutely fantastically well. I just wanted to share with you a recent survey. So this was done a few months ago with 3,000 staff that work in schools around excessive workload, and 83% of those 3,000 people that were asked to take part in the survey said that their workload and their stress had increased massively over the last 12 months, and 63% of those said that it was impacting on their health and their well-being. So really, I just want to finish by saying that you're not alone if you're feeling down. We all have those periods. Do reach out, do be brave and ask, and hopefully, you know, that support will be there for you. I'm now going to pass over to Kirsty, who's going to be doing the second part of our presentation.
Brilliant, thank you. So what will be really cool now is in your inbox, it came at 5 o'clock, we got it right at the top of your inbox, hopefully, is a survey monkey for Wellbeing, and it would be really cool if you could just take a couple of minutes now just to do the survey monkey before we do the second part of this session. The reason that we've built it into the twilight is because we don't want you to go away kind of and then get kind of stuck into your routines of stuff you need to do at home and things like that, which we totally understand. So what we'd rather you do is just kind of do it for a couple of minutes now. It'd be really helpful just to give us as a team an indication of kind of how your well-being's going, any kind of thoughts. There's an option at the end for any other comments. Just if you've got anything in there, please let us know. So we're going to take maybe like 2 minutes to do that, and then we're just going to kind of come back and focus on the second part, which is all around recovering from COVID and the pandemic, and then kind of what parts of that we want to keep. So I'm just going to leave you guys to do that for a couple of seconds. If you would like to go and make a cup of tea while you do that, that would be absolutely fine. Okay, cool. Just wanted to carry on, just checking you guys can still hear me before I put my PowerPoint back on. Can you see, everyone see my PowerPoint, and can everyone hear me? Brilliant. Just to say this, the surveys are anonymous, so please don't be worried about that. It's just to give us kind of an overview of kind of where we are. If you haven't finished, please finish that tomorrow in your work time. Okay, so we're moving on to well-being in a pandemic, which is a very, very strange thing. I love this picture. I feel like this is me in a cup, and I think this is kind of how we've all, and I know Tina said it earlier, this is what we've all had to adapt to. We've had to kind of process all these amazing things that have just kind of been thrown at us, while still trying to be the best for our young people and for our colleagues as well. So reading this cup, it's really easy to see kind of how our well-being would have taken a massive knock over the last few months. So what do we do when we're hitting this capacity? This is the coronavirus overwhelm. What can we do? We need to recognize the signs when we're reaching the full capacity, and we need to break these things down so that we can work out what we can tackle. Some of these things we can't fix, some of these things we can't change, but some of them maybe we could figure out a bit more. So don't forget to use your coping strategies. So Paul has kind of given you an overview of a lot of other things that are really kind of helpful strategies. But again, the best kind of person to learn strategies from is from yourself. What works for you? What parts of kind of, maybe it's just like giving this thing up and putting this thing down and moving on to something else. Does that work for you? Is it about going to bed earlier? My biggest thing at the minute is drinking. I'm ticking every time I drink a bottle of water, because I don't otherwise. Seeking support when you can. You're surrounded by people that care about you at work, at home. You've got Care First, you've got all these other things, and just seeking that support when you can. And this one is a difficult one. Kicking unnecessary things out of your cup. Now, some of those things in that cup you can't kick out, especially if you're doing homeschooling. They kind of, you need to continue doing that with your children at home or whatever. But actually, what things can we remove? Are you putting unnecessary pressure on yourself to be ever present for your friends? Or are you putting unnecessary pressure on yourself to be kind of doing homeschooling and then learning and doing your work and then housekeeping? What things can you adjust there? Talk things through with a friend. Now, this one is kind of something that is, I think, probably one of the most important parts of having since the last lockdown, is we found different ways of communicating. So in the kind of times before, we might have driven to a meeting, spoken to someone, we talked to them, kind of go again, but actually we found different ways. Voice notes between friends have become kind of evident. Just kind of sending a voice note of, this is how I'm doing today, just letting you know. Prioritizing your breaks, your rest and your recovery periods, that's really important. 5 minutes, just go for a walk around the block. Something that we built in at Post 16 during the first lockdown was like an hour off the computers, and everyone would be like, bye everyone, see you in an hour, and they'd all kind of go off and have their lunch in the garden, or they'd go for a walk around the block or something like that, and prioritize. Be kind to yourself and don't beat yourself up. That's really important. We're all finding this difficult. We're all in this kind of unusual world, and we're all kind of trying to figure it out together. So be kind to yourself, and look after the basics. Paul said it: eat and drink regularly, prioritize sleep and exercise. Okay, so what can you do? Because I think that's really important. Obviously, we've talked about this in pretty much all the sessions tonight. Talk to someone you trust. We have Care First available. Express your feelings creatively. Something that I think a lot of people have done is picked up lockdown hobbies and things like that. How can you express yourself when you're feeling kind of overwhelmed? Control what you can. It may be that you can't control 5 or 6 things that are happening, but actually this one thing, I can control what I'm having for dinner, and I'm going to eat something that's healthy for me for dinner or whatever. Look after your physical health. I think the second lockdown hit me definitely harder because it was cold, so I didn't want to go out for a walk. So the first lockdown I was like, this is all right, garden, hanging out with my kids. Second one was not fun for me. I found it really, really difficult just because it was cold and I just didn't want to go out, and that really did impact me. And unplug when you need to. Has anyone got sick of screens? I am so I've never ever looked at a screen as much as I have done in the last few months, and I've started just leaving my phone somewhere else in the house, and anyone that knows me knows that's quite unusual, but actually for me, I've just needed to not be near my screen and not to be contactable, because that's what I've needed to do. So think about that. And feelings in a day. We have lived through this pandemic for a year, and there is no normal response to a pandemic. No one knows what this looks like. Your feelings might change day to day and may be affected by things outside of your control. And sometimes it may feel worse before it gets better. So just remind yourself that actually the brighter days are ahead. And we're all in this together. I think that's just really important. Okay, something I saw this week actually from the Mental Health Foundation is about being kindness during the coronavirus outbreak. I really liked this, like, something that's really come out since the outbreak is all the community spirit and the things that have come from that. So these are just a few ideas. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but send someone a picture of an animal. Maybe your animal is doing something cute. Send it to someone. Send a text to someone. Arrange a cup of tea and a virtual catch up. Reach out to someone. Arrange to watch this film at the same time. Netflix have a really cool setting now where you can watch a film with someone at the same time, and Disney Plus has it as well. So you can sit and watch a film with someone that's in a different house and spend some time together. Okay. This is really important. Now, this is the bit that I think is the most important when we think about what we want to keep from a pandemic. Like these two people are finishing a marathon, but they're finishing it in very, very different ways. Lady on the left is flying high. She's so excited. She's done it. She's done her training. She's got herself through, and she is just ready to reap the rewards. And lady on the right is crawling to the finish line, and every single movement looks like it could take her out. We have been living in fight or flight for a year, and that's really important. We've talked about the road to recovery today, and I really like Tina's kind of take on it instead. But we've all been in the same storm, but we've not been in the same boat. And I think that's really important to remember. Part of our brains is specializing in this fight or flight response. And it's really important to recognize that the effect isn't just physical. The logic center can be suppressed if you live in fight or flight for too long. And if your logic center is being suppressed, it means our fear center takes over. And it means that all the things that your body needs to do to survive come to the forefront all the time. It means that where we would normally take calm and rational decisions, we're taking ones that are urgent and driven by anxiety and worries. And sometimes those anxieties are real or imagined. And we can all see this when we think about the toilet paper hoarding. People got worried, and I remember on social media seeing people being like, it doesn't even affect that part of your body if you get corona anyway. Why are people hoarding toilet? But what happens is somebody decides that toilet paper is something that we all need. It's gold dust. So then they buy too much, which then leads to someone else panicking and being like, I need to buy some more toilet paper. And it becomes this kind of rolling cycle. Others see that their fear center goes, do you know what? I need 6 months supply just in case. And then suddenly the shelves are bare, and that kind of happens. And that can lead to increasing spirals of worry. This system is primitive. You can't stop it. It's who we are. But, when fear kicks in, we will do whatever is necessary as human beings to reduce fear and create a sense of control, which is why people fight over pasta in supermarkets and anti-bac. It's an overly sensitive car alarm, your brain. So it can sometimes go off a lot, making you feel crazy when actually the proportion is not the same as the risk. And we are facing real and grave risks, but shopping will not allay those fears. Having enough toilet paper will not allay those fears. And it's just trying to find the balance with that. So positivity out of the pandemic. Look at this. Right. So there's so much to come out of the pandemic that is positive, and it's such a horrible thing to put the word positivity and pandemic together. But I think this is really important to think about. Something that I've been doing recently is thinking about what I want to keep. So what do I want to keep from the pandemic? So something that I want to keep is my work-life balance. So closing my laptop and putting my laptop away at home, or sometimes I've got kind of good at leaving it at work because I don't need it. I don't need it when I'm at home. Things like that. Community involvement, something that's been amazing to see is the world has kind of risen to the challenge of community involvement. And, on a local level, we've been involved in some things here within Post 16 around community involvement, and we're continuing to do that. But on a global scale, like so Captain Tom Moore and his walking captured the whole country. And I remember watching a newspaper a news report of him and his cards for his birthday. I thought that was just amazing. Like, that's the stuff that needs to stay. That's what is just amazing. The Crisp Packet project, thank you, Dee. That's something that our learners at Post 16 are doing. Kind of, they're making Crisp Packet sleeping bags for the homeless at the moment, and they're going to be continuing to do that. Online community. I taught my nan how to use Facebook Messenger video chat. Now, without the pandemic, I would never have done that. But it's meant that my nan has been able to keep in touch with me, and I only live down the road, so normally she would see me, but also my relatives that are further away that my nan doesn't see. And that I want to keep. I mean, I still have to teach her sometimes that I can see her ear, but the important thing is that I would never have bothered to try and teach my nan how to do that before. And then on the left-hand side, this is the coral reef, and that is baby coral being planted. And, you know, the effect on our environment of us being in lockdown has been beyond what any scientist would have ever imagined. So they're just a few things that are coming out of a pandemic, and maybe it's that you haven't got the ability at the moment to think about what you want to keep out of the pandemic. It may be that the pandemic, you know, the lockdowns have been too hard and you haven't got the time and you can't see anything good coming out of this, and that's okay. But it might be that in a couple of months, a few years, you start to think, do you know what? Like, I can take this out of it, and let's take kind of that control back from something that happened to us that was out of our control, which takes us back to the fight or flight. And here's some cool resources. So How to Stay Calm in a Global Pandemic is a book. It's free. It's a free ebook. The drawing that I showed you at the beginning, around kind of, you know, the cup, comes from this free ebook, and it's really, really cool. So that's Dr. Emma Hepburn. She is a psychologist, and it's really, really cool. She also has a book called Tools for Modern Life, which is really good, so I recommend that. Headspace, I know Paul has mentioned Headspace already. It is free. I've used it. I think it's really, really helpful. It's just a different way of processing and thinking. Mentally Healthy Schools have just expanded. They are now primary, secondary, and the staff in those schools. So there's lots coming out of there, and they're being endorsed by the Duchess of Cambridge and lots of different things. There's a lot going on that website, to keep an eye on it. There's lots coming out of there. And then finally, How to Look After Your Mental Health, which is a free ebook by the Mental Health Foundation. That's just another like cool thing. So these resources don't have to cost us lots of money. There's lots out there, and we're going to be starting, when we bring out the Wellbeing newsletter, there's going to be resources in there kind of as we find them, so keep an eye on that as well. And then a final thought. Paul, do you want to do this, or do you want me to carry on?
You carry on, Kirsty. Sorry, I was stuck.
That's all right.
There.
That's all right. Okay, so final thought for you all. You have control over your stress and your well-being, and take back some of that control where you can. Try one new strategy that Paul has suggested today. Try something different. See how it works for you. If it doesn't work, that's okay. There's something else. That's the 83% that Paul was sharing earlier from the survey. And get your chimp under control. And just to remember that we are all here to help. And we've given over 2 hours of your paid time to communicate how important your well-being is. So please take that time to look after yourself. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I'll come back to you all. I think that's it. Is that it, Paul? Is that you?
Yeah, I just want to literally, obviously, first of all, thank you for coming along to this session, but just literally end with how I started the whole thing today, that actually you are our most valuable resource that we've got within the trust. And actually, if we don't look after you and you don't look after you, then the whole thing falls down into a big heap. So please do just spend some time. It's not selfish. It's not egocentric. You are important. So look after yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are free to go 4 whole minutes early.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. You're on mute, Paul. I just realised I could remove people because they were just sat there.
Oh, well done.
How do
That first session went well. They seemed to. Well done for all of your work on it. I think the whole thing went really well.
Yeah, I think it went really well. I thought our bits gelled really nicely together, actually.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good.
I thought the whole sort of session, right from the start of the Twilight, seemed to flow. There were no major issues. Everybody got the messages. So yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I'm really pleased. And do you know what's really cool? I've obviously had because I created the other ones. I can see all the other chats go in all the time, like a whole. And I was going to mute them, and I was like, no, it's really nice to see them engaging. And like kind of Joe's one was all about. I could see the Rivermead School stuff going on, and then like the statutory one, like that looks like loads was going on in that one. So it's just really cool. Like I hope they've recorded them so we can watch them.
Yeah, it'd be lovely to watch back the ones we didn't see.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really pleased because I thought that I just haven't felt stressed about it, and it's been really cool. So yeah, thank you very much.
That's all right, thank you. Well done. Go and give yourself a well-earned break now from it.
Oh, thank you. Can I just talk to you about You've Got Mail just before we go?
Yeah.
Right. So I have Debbie Stammer's box here. Hannah is off sick. Do you have any ideas? Is there anything we can do in terms of filling that box? I don't want her to go without.
What, in terms of her likes?
Yeah, so there's nothing here. It's just an empty box. So I need something to put in there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and also all of the post 16 boxes did not come up to post 16, which means we've only just got them yesterday.
Okay, so we want to delay collecting them if we can.
Well, Warren rang us today and was like, where are you? Where are the boxes? And so school kind of phoned us and we were like, we didn't get them. We asked to be on the list, like we weren't on the list.
Oh, no.
So I'm wondering whether I collect them from post 16 tomorrow and just drive them up to the RIT at some point.
Yeah.
And then if Warren can deliver them like Wednesday next week, that gives me like tomorrow to get them kind of up to you.
Yeah, that's fine. Or I can come and collect them from you or whatever works.
Yeah, okay. I don't really mind either way. I mean, I just am very aware that post 16 did not get them, so they didn't have chance to fill them, and I don't want to stress them out. So yeah, they're all here. So I'm quite happy to do that. Maybe we'll regroup on that one tomorrow then. And the other thing is I've got a box from Jacqueline Thompson, who's one of ours, who says it's for her person. Now I've looked at the list you gave me. She's not on there. So I wonder if this is the last year list.
This one. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll let you know. Yeah, if you could have a look for me. I'll just let her know if she's not done it. That's fine. Yeah, she won't be fussed. So I'll just let you know. But we'll catch up tomorrow about You've Got Mail then and just make sure.
Yeah, all right. We'll get a slot and have a catch up.
Lovely.
Brilliant.
All right. Thanks,
all right.
Paul. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, and you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.